Thank you very much and good afternoon. Thank you, Miss Vanessa, for the sweet introduction. Sobrang nakakahawa ng energy or ang energy ni Miss Vanessa, which is really good. I don't know, parang na-pressure ko parang dapat yung energy, ganun din, no? But Miss Vanessa again, ang ganda, dagdag ng positive vibes. So, to the Dean of the College of Business Administration, Dean Guillermo C. Bongato Jr., to the college officials, the faculty members, the graduate students, friends, a blessed afternoon to everyone. I would like to congratulate the college for this successful webinar series. I believe that this is already a successful activity, although alam kong hindi pa tapos, and I hope na this will continue pa. Okay, so I feel humbled and honored to be with you this afternoon. And thank you very much for inviting me to share with you more on research ethics. Please allow me to share my screen. Okay. Visible na po ang aking screen.
Yes po, we see it here perfectly.
Okay, thank you. So for this afternoon, again, I will be sharing with you research ethics, but I added this tagline, choosing to walk at the right track. So why did I decided to use the word choose? With the pandemic around, I believe that one of the most important thing nowadays is to value our decisions, no? Yung simple decisions natin, our simple choices, these are what matters the most right now. And we all know that our experiences, or maybe the experiences of our friends or family members related to COVID, make us realize how important our decisions are, how important our choices are. So that's the reason, no? Why I used the word choose as part of the tagline of our discussion for this afternoon. So I will be sharing with you the following: importance of research, although this might be a review, because I know that all of us here are already research experts. We are gearing toward this destination. And then, of course, we will look into some of the unethical researches, essence of ethics in research, research ethics principles, and what is our responsibility as researchers. Okay, so let's start with the importance of research. Dr. Bongato a while ago mentioned morality. And in general, research is good or must be treated as a good way, a good project, a good study for human beings. The main reason why we are conducting research projects, the main reason why scientists are continuously doing their experimentations, medical practitioners keep on researching or conducting researches, keep on studying, okay, is for the good of human beings, is for the benefit of human beings. So that's the first one. The second is research is fundamental to the advancement of knowledge and science. The products that we are enjoying nowadays, may it be in technology or in the field of medicine, these are all products of past researches of scientists, of experts, of academicians, no, of different experts on their fields. So it's one of the key features why we keep on advancing, why we keep on moving forward, why we keep on keeping our toes on the right track. Okay, so one of the the basis is research, of course. And research offers hope. When we look, or when our professors or when our teachers require us to draft our literature, we look at concepts which are missing, okay, in these studies. That's why we value, or we look at the literature gap, the research gap, from which our the novelty of our research project will come into. Therefore, research studies or research projects must assure us that this particular gap, okay, in the literature will be filled. Therefore, eventually, or at the end, no, in the long run, research studies offers hope, okay, to what is missing maybe in the past, okay, or to what is missing to the studies today or at present. That's why we keep on doing or conducting research activities or research projects. And lastly, research means to act. It doesn't stop at the presentation. It doesn't end at the publication. I attended one international conference, and I think this is what really motivated me to start my journey in research. When she mentioned, the keynote speaker mentioned that the end should not be publication. It What's important aside from publication on the part of dissemination of the results of our research is if we are sure that the results of our study are accepted or received, okay, received by our participants or the subject of our study. Remember, in our research projects, we always include who will benefit this study. So after the completion of our research, after the presentation, publication of our research, we can ask ourselves, did we really reach out to the targets, to the subjects, to the participants of our study after we completed it? Did we give them feedbacks, okay, results of the study that maybe not 100% of the participants will, of course, expect that, but pwedeng may makaalala kasi what happened na kaya. Okay? So it's one of the challenges as well, no, in our journey while we conduct research projects. Okay? Moving on some of the unethical researches. Okay? I just chose 5 of unethical researches na sobrang dami naman online. And if we know the history, I believe that most of us are already familiar of the following. The first is Dr. Edward Jenner, the author of the famous account Smallpox Vaccination. May I see comments in the chat box if some of you or if anyone is familiar with this issue or with the issue behind or the ethical issue behind Jenner's vaccination publication. Meron ba? Let us see. Okay po. Baka may mag-pop up. In 5, 4, 3, 2, okay. Dr. Edward Jenner is actually a practitioner, of course, no, a researcher, a scientist on his own field. Okay, and in 1798, he published his account on vaccination, particularly on smallpox. And researchers nowadays claim that if there is a research ethics committee during Jenner's time, okay, if there are committees across the globe or research ethics committee who will look closely and monitor on how practitioners, researchers are conducting their research study, they claim that this project or this technique, the technique that Jenners used, will not pass. Okay, will not pass the requirements of the Research Ethics Committee. Why? Okay, let's look closely at it. During his time, smallpox is a serious threat to the community, of course, no? And Jenner created this technique, applied this technique to his subjects, which he called variolation. So in this technique, what happens is, if I am the subject or the recipient, no, of the vaccine or that technique, what they'll do is to cut a part on my skin, okay, or if I have a blister here, they will place or they will put a small amount of fluid of small packs in the cut of my skin, and then they will observe what will happen to me. Now, that's how they did the technique, the variolation technique. So um among all the um studies or the administration of that technique, there were two famous subjects um who received this technique or the variolation, but eventually they died. Okay, the first one is the 2-year-old son of the then Earl of Sunderland, Honorable William Spencer. The child is only 2 years old, and then the other one is the 19-year-old son of the footman Lord Bathurst. Okay, after receiving that fluid, no, from the smallpox, they did not survive the after effects, okay, of the fluid itself. So there is already, or there are, no, not just a single petition to stop the conduct of the then administration of that technique by Dr. Jenner. Okay, but Dr. Jenner and some of his colleagues claim that the technique is actually effective. It's because out of 3,405 cases, okay, they reduced the number after the administration of variolation. They reduced the number of death from 1,000 plus to 636 only. So during the trend of the report, the number of death cases, okay, of the smallpox is consistent at the thousands. Okay, andun lang siya. But after the administration of the variolation, they claim that na lesson. Okay? But what could be the ethical issue here? Why did they say that the study, okay, of Dr. Edward Jenner is actually unethical? If we will look at the subjects, at the recipients, okay, 20 the recipients are young people. Okay, the youngest is actually that 2-year-old child, and the others are 20 and below. Okay, so that is one of the unethical issues that the complainants are raising. Okay, the second one is J. Marion Sims. He is the controversial father of gynecology. So what did Sims do during his time? Just like Jenner, there are defenders of Sims. Okay, and let's see why they keep on defending him. Okay, Sims is a medical practitioner, and he chose on recruiting subjects or participants who are slaves. Okay, he chose slaves as his participants in his experimentations, in his practices, okay, on female. Okay, this may seem to I may use delicate or words, no, Sims' position actually on vaginal examinations. Okay? Yun yung kanyang focus during that time. So, Sims' position on vaginal examinations was focused on the use of his own techniques on women who are slaves. Okay? So, his defenders claim that these subjects, okay, or the participants already gave their consent. No, they gave their consent. But then complainants are looking at how Sims conducted the experiments, or the the way he did his practice. Why? Because he conducted surgeries, okay, without anesthesia to the slave women. Okay? Of course, during those time, hindi pa naman siya ganon ka hindi pa rin masyadong pinapractice. Parang tanggapan nila na surgeries without anesthesia. But the unethical issue here that we are looking is, why choose slaves? Why choose these people? Let's say, for example, most of the subjects are they cannot remember the rest of the subjects, but there were three famous subjects of Sims during that time. They are Lucy, Anarcha, and Betsy. And on Anarcha alone, Sims did 30 surgeries on her, all without anesthesia. Okay? The defenders of Sims supported him on the fact that there is a need for this surgery. There is a need to try this technique because there is a sole purpose. They are looking at how affliction, no, that these surgical attempts, no, they are looking at how to cure some problems on women during that time. But the unethical issue here is, again, why choose slaves? Why Sims keep on repeating surgeries to these slaves? Imagine 30 surgeries in one person, all without anesthesia. Okay, that's the second one. The third is Giuseppe Sanerali, the informed consent case on yellow fever. So if we will look at history, typhoid and malaria were brought under control easily, but yellow fever remained endemic in Cuba. Okay, and at the end of the Spanish-American War, which ended in 114 days, there are actually U.S. soldiers who are afflicted with the disease. And because there is a call for an immediate response, the Surgeon General of the United States by then made a team, a committee, a medical committee, who will work on how they will prevent, okay, how they will cure, no, yellow fever. So what they did is they did experimentations. They get some fluids from the carrier of the yellow fever, which they believe is a female mosquito. Okay, so the Aedes aegypti mosquito, and then parang ganito lang eh. So they will allow that the mosquito to drink blood from an afflicted person with yellow fever, and then they will wait for some time, 14 days, okay, because that's the time that the the mosquito, the female mosquito, will be able to transfer the yellow fever to the end of its vesicles, so that when they let the female mosquito, no, na kagatin naman yung kanilang subject, enough na. Okay? So that's one of the different experimentations that they did. Okay? So there were 29 people, okay, who contracted the disease in their participation in this study. Okay? And out of 29, okay, US soldiers, 5 died. Okay? So, 5. What could be the unethical issue here? They are looking at the conduct of the experimentation without trial. Parang the same lang din, dun sa other two cases natin kanina. Without trial on animals, um they they directed the experimentation to humans, to people, kasi nga their claim is there is an urgent need. Okay? But then an ethical issue is how did they inform? How did they inform the subjects? How did they inform these participants of what might happen after the experimentation? What might happen to them? Are they ready for the setbacks, okay, of the experimentation? Okay. And then the fourth one is Joseph Mengele, aka the Angel of Death. He has this I'm sorry, I forgot the term. Pero yung fascination. Okay. He has this fascination on twins. Okay. Joseph has fascination on twins, and he did genetic experimentations on 1,500 sets of twins during his time. Okay. And these experimentations, the experimentations that he did, okay, were all performed without anesthesia, from the transfusion of blood from one twin to another, the isolation endurance of the twins, reactions to various stimuli, injections of germs to their bodies. Okay. And the unethical issue here is all these twins, they undergoing his experiment, didn't know the objective of Yusef, didn't know the aim of the experimentation. Okay. And last but not the least in our list is a Korean researcher. He is Moon Young-in. Okay. The researcher who peer-reviewed himself. Okay. So ito medyo ano na siya. Recent na lang siya. Okay? We all know that if we will submit our papers for publication, some publishers or some editor-in-chiefs will ask us a list of editors. It may be 3, it may be 5. Okay? That's for a single submission of manuscript to the journals. In the case of special issues, let's say, for example, we will apply for a special issue of this particular journal. The EIC of that journal will ask us summary of reviews, okay, of the papers that we will include in the special issue. And what did Moon Young-in, okay, do on his submission, on the submission of his papers is he listed, okay, the names of the experts, okay, on his field, but he indicated fake emails. The names of the persons are real, okay. Some actually are his close colleagues or friends. They are real, but there were fake emails, and all the reviews of these reviewers, okay, on his list are actually his doing. So all his papers got an A plus result of all the reviews. So lahat na publish. Okay? But then there were publishers, there were journals na nag-question na bakit very minimal ang comments. Okay? So they investigated it, and they found out that all the emails are fake. They eventually contacted all the names, okay, on his list, and they found out that he is just creating these experts. Okay, some of the names on the list are experts who are created in just a snap of his finger. Okay, but he is not actually the first one to do this. There are other researchers who did this, like a Chinese scientist, okay, in 2010. Okay, and all their papers were retracted in all the journals that wherein they published their research. Okay, so let's continue. What are the lessons, okay, from these unethical researches? The first lesson is research involves humans who, first, are used as mere instruments, instruments who are abused and overused. Okay, so maybe these scientists, these researchers are good people. Now, naturally they are good people, but because of their mere objectives, because of their ambitions, they are acting in bad ways, and eventually they cause harm. Because they put at risk these people, specifically their subjects. Okay, so there are these kind of people. The next is subjects or participants pay with their lives upon their participation in the study. Okay, if we will look at the presented studies a while ago, these are actually researches which are health related. Okay, but we cannot separate it to how we are conducting research projects nowadays. Why? Because we are involving humans, we are involving people, we are involving our students in our research study. And if we will look at the guide, at the National Ethics Guide, involving humans as participants fall on this category of, say, for example, research that should be evaluated. Okay, that should secure ethics clearance before the researcher or researchers proceed with their gathering of data or data. The third is these humans, the subjects, the participants, some of them are harmed, some of them are wronged, some of them are bullied, maybe some of them are offended. Are we aware of how they feel as researchers? And sometimes they are neither valued nor protected. Okay, that's for lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, our duty to experiment does not mean doing research under any type of conditions, such as some researchers will act inappropriately. Kasi kailangan ko 'to, sige na, paki-disseminate na lang 'to kasi kailangan ko na, eto na, kailangan ko siyang matapos within this period of time, ganito, ganyan, ganyan, and others. Do we act appropriately when we conduct a research project or our research study? There are correct ways of conducting research. These are based on established ethical guidelines, and we follow the regulatory system. We just need to be aware, okay, of all these ethical guidelines. And I believe that all of us are willing to follow the guidelines, are very open to embrace the system. Okay, it's just we need to be aware of what we need to do. Okay, that's what I believe. And then efforts have been unsatisfactory. Remember, if we are doing a research study, from the identification of the research problem up to writing our recommendation, our aim must always to write, to deliver, okay, an outstanding result, an outstanding review of studies. Okay, that's our aim when we write research papers. And lesson number 3, consider other stakeholders. First, the community, the participants. Okay, the community of your subjects, your participants. these participants who represent both during and after the research. Who are the people who will participate in your study as your participants? Who are these people who you included in your list of beneficiaries? Who are these people who are listed in your claim that your study is significant? To whom? So we need to consider them. And then the future user, to whom we dedicate this study. Okay, one and two are related to each other. And then the public. Are we presenting the results of our study to the right people? Kaya nga di ba po, we are when we present our paper, when we present our study, we are choosing the right webinar or conference for us. Okay? Are they gonna relate on the study that we will present? So we need to consider that. And then ourselves, of course. Okay? Are we trustworthy enough for on the start of the conduct of the study, upon the completion, to the presentation, up to the publication? Can we consider ourselves, okay, as trustworthy? Our institution, okay, magbibigay lang ba tayo sa kanila ng harm, or they will benefit as well? Kasi our research study is timely, relevant, kapaki-pakinabang, okay? And when others, okay, know our study, they will also know our institution, of course. Okay? And last but not the least is, of course, our environment. So the last one is more on the conduct of studies related to, or in the field of medicine, no, yung nagpo-produce ng mga wastes, those research studies that will use also animals or plants, okay? Will they harm our environment? So, what is the essence of ethics in research? Okay, we just chose 5 studies or 5 unethical researches, but again, there are too many in the list that we can see online as well. So from there, let's look at how important ethics in research is. According to Bruce McFarlane, everything participants say will be kept confidential. Their anonymity is assured. Informed consent will be obtained. All the data will be securely stored. The benefits of carrying out the study will far outweigh any risks, and there is no need for the university to worry. Okay? We must broaden our concept of research ethics to consider the fundamental virtues that underline what we as individual researchers actually do. Not only as researchers, okay, but also especially to us, because we are teachers, we are educators, we are facilitators in the classroom. Our students will learn from us. Our students will look at our research studies conducted, completed studies, and they will learn from them. Okay? To continue with the essence of ethics in research, okay, I have listed the following. The first is the pursuit of good. So, kanina pa natin naririnig yung good, morality. Okay? And actually, it's the first essence of ethics in research, because research must always be for the good of human beings and the society. Okay? It's always for them. And then, value and protect the research subject. In our game a while ago, no, dun po sa Kahoot, kung mapapansin ninyo, ang hero natin dun sa game natin, na ang topic ay research ethics, are the subjects, are the participants. And if you will look at the presentation, okay, our presentation this afternoon, napaka-common, no, na talagang laging naririnig natin yung participants, yung subjects. Okay? Why? Kasi they are the key, actually, okay, to the success of our research study. So we must protect them. Okay? So, relating this to the pursuit of good and protecting the research subject aims to improve people's health and well-being. We are conducting studies, whether it is in the field of medicine or academic papers, because we are looking at how we can help, okay? We can, ano yung maiaambag natin, okay, for in promoting well-being of people around us. Okay, so to continue, the man or the participants, okay, or our subjects, they are always over science. They are always over the researcher, the research itself, okay, or they are always over the institution or the society. Kailangan laging sila yung kino-consider. Okay? Hindi sila ma-harm, hindi sila ma-offend. Kaya nga, dun sa isang question natin in our day, they are free to live. Okay? They are free to withdraw. As a researcher, do we need a reason from our participants, from our subjects? No, they are free to withdraw because participation in a research study is always voluntary. Okay? Next, researchers should protect the participants against harm, kanina pa natin naririnig, and appreciate, okay, and be an advocate for the participants. Kaya yung confidentiality is very important too. Anonymity is very important too. And kanina, we already mentioned the safety of the data collected. Okay? How are we going to store this data? Let me share with you our experience po. When we are reviewing research protocols in the office, syempre andun yung ethical considerations that the applicants or the researchers must fill in comprehensively. And then the evaluators, the members of the University Research Ethics Board of PUP will look closely at the ethical considerations. And then, ang kadalasan po kasing nane-neglect is storage of the data. Okay? So, hindi siya masyadong napi-fill upan. Gaano ba katagal? Saan mo i-store? One time, may nag-approach sa akin, kailangan pa ba talagang sabihin na as a flash drive ko i-store, sisirain ko yung flash drive after 5 years? And surprisingly, nasusurprise sila, no? That my answer is always yes. Okay? Why? Because in all the trainings that conducted by the DOST and FREB, okay, the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board, kailangan naka-indicate lahat. Okay? And the reason why we value how we store this data from our participants, sino? Okay? One more thing po pala. Sino yung may access dun sa data? Kasama siya. Lahat kasama siya. When you answer the research protocol, I believe most of us already answered the research protocol of the Research Management Office po para po kayong nagkukwento. Okay? Ikukwento nyo lahat. Okay? And hindi pagiging OA yung pagsasabi natin kung paano natin siya i-store. Why? It's one way of protecting our participants against harm. What if my colleague accidentally, okay, got access on the data that I gathered in this particular research? Tapos hindi ko na alis yung name, hindi ko nalagyan ng code name. Ay, si ganito pala, ganyan. Okay? Yun yung iniiwasan natin. That's why we must protect our subject. We must protect our participants. So, What are the four principles, no, of research ethics? These are the following. The first is beneficence. The second is non-maleficence. The third is respect per person. And the last is justice. Okay. So the first one is beneficence, which is the act for the benefit of others. We are we say that we can say that we benefit from this research if, or we will benefit from this research study if we will be able to get the desired outcome. Syempre yung una nating goal. Okay? If we will get advantage on the study because we obtained our desired outcome. Ano ba talaga yung gusto natin? Okay, na mapalabas on our research. But the second one, no, promote good, is always an active ingredient. Okay, on the on this principle. Okay, kailangan kung if we will look at the benefits of our research study, the active ingredient is we always promote good. So we need to be clear with our intentions. We need, no, as researchers, we need to prevent or remove any harm, okay, that may be afflicted with, okay, by our participants or subjects of our study. Okay. So, in beneficence, we also look at how the other stakeholders, okay, will gain knowledge from our research study. Of course, yun yung kanina pa nating sinasabi na consider other stakeholders. Okay? They are important too in conducting our research. Okay. Principle 2 is non-maleficence. Non-maleficence is our obligation. Kung sa practitioner, medical practitioner, it is the obligation of the medical practitioner or the doctor to not harm his or her patient, to not kill his or his patient, or to not cause pain to his or her patient. So for us researchers in any field, no, in any strand, in general, okay, it is our obligation, non-maleficence is our obligation to not cause offense to our subjects and to other stakeholders, to not cause harm to them, and we do not deprive the others about the goods of life. That's why we promote good, okay, in all aspects of research. And then, of course, no, the essence is to protect, preserve, defend life, health, integrity, dignity of the participants. This is independent of consent. That's why it's always voluntary. Okay, maybe our subjects or participants will have their own reasons on withdrawing in our study, and kung tayong researcher, it's okay for us. No need to be offended kasi it's always voluntary. A. Principle number 3 is respect per person. It's a recognition, okay, of a person's dignity and autonomy, and at the same time giving them special protection, especially if our subjects or if our participants are considered as vulnerable participants. Okay? Aside from being minors, baka minors yung subjects natin or participants, PWD ba sila? Sila ba ay mga elderly? Okay? So, we need to respect, no, our participants as a whole. And then express how we value one another, participants and co-researchers, if we are doing a collaborative research study, of course. Okay, so we always promote treating others in a respectful manner. And principle number 4 okay, is justice, no? So here we are looking at the rightness of persons' interactions and relationships. Um, Justice, as principle number 4, is said to be the most important principle which relates to public's view of study credibility. That's why they say that this is the most difficult ethical requirement to comply with. Okay? So, bakit kaya? Okay? In this principle, um, we are looking at how we reduce inequalities, okay, among our subjects or among our participants. When we do our or when we conduct a research study, we follow other principles. And in principle number 4 or in justice, it's always telling the truth. Okay? If their responses do not match or hindi ito yung desired outcome ko, hindi ito mangyayari, hindi ko ito makukuha. Telling the truth, okay, from based on the responses of our participants may be hard, but it's one of the most important principle in conducting research studies. That's why, okay, we emphasize the saying, fair if I were in need, fair if I were to give. So on the participants' side, there must always be a fair selection, okay? Especially if we are giving assignments to the participants. Okay? Kasi there are research studies naman na hindi lang Google form, no? Yung pinipil upan nila for their study to be completed. Another for the participants is there must be a just compensation for them. Okay? Let me share this one po, no? Kasi pandemic ngayon, mahirap mag-conduct ng interview, mahirap mag-conduct ng focus group discussion. And there is one research protocol na the evaluators, no, the University Research Ethics Board suggested na the researchers rather must give compensation to the subjects. Why? Kasi doon sa kanilang method, they will conduct an interview for 2 hours. Okay, 2 oras. And that's the minimum. No? Minimum pa lang po yun. So, ibig sabihin, ang understanding ng UREB is, kung minimum lang yun, pwede pang mag 3 hours, pwede pang mag 4 or mag 5 yan. Depende sa flow ng kanilang conversation or sa takbo ng kanilang focus group discussion. So they suggested compensation to the participants in terms of internet load allowance. Wala naman pong masama. Just indicate everything in the research protocol. Okay? Indicate everything in the research protocol. Lahat ng gagawin ninyo in the conduct of your study, indicate natin in our research protocol. Kung wala man, kasi there is a specific question in the research protocol about compensation to subjects or the participants, be clear na there will be no compensation for the participants. Okay? So it's one of the ethical considerations, no, na we'll look at it din po later. Okay? So, to continue with justice in research, okay, and considering the people around us, not only our subjects, but also for the following. First, for all stakeholders, there should be no conflict of interest. In some research ethics committees po, especially yung mga nag-e-evaluate ng research protocol which are related to health, they always declare no conflicts of interest, no? Sa mga academe kasi in institutions, no, ang ating mga research ethic committees, meron lang tayong category na hihingan natin ng declaration ng no conflict of interest. It depends on the objectives of the study. Okay? But in for all stakeholders, there should be no COI. Okay? Next, number 2 is for the society. We should take into consideration that we are always law compliant, okay? And we are truthful. The results of the study that we will declare are the real results of the study, okay? Because we will share the results or our completed research to others, okay? And then number 3 is for the participants or for the subjects of our study. Fair selection, benefit sharing, among others. Then for the researcher, fulfillment of course. Okay? Meron naman, kasama naman tayo. Okay? Ang researchers. And then compensation. Second na lang ang compensation. For the institution, protection of reputation. Kasi of course, when we publish our research, lagi tayong hinihinga ng affiliation. No? So, let's make it sure na hindi rin naman madedehado ang ating kung saan tayo affiliated. Okay? Agency man yan, institution man yan. Okay? And last but not the least, the sponsor. If we are conducting studies na meron tayong funding agency, we owe them good work. Hindi nga lang good we owe them an outstanding work. Okay? Kasi may mga funding agency na kayang mag-fund or willing mag-fund ng kahit pamilyon yan, okay, in our research studies. And we owe them outstanding work. So, hindi lang pala siya dapat good work. Okay? So, what is our responsibility? Researcher appropriateness is both scientific and ethical requirement. What do we mean by scientific? We are all experts on this. Ito po yung tinatawag natin na scientific soundness of our research proposal. This is actually ito yung tinetechnical review ng inyo pong Research Ethics Committee or UREB, okay, sa PUP. Yung scientific soundness niya, it starts with the background of the study hanggang doon po sa methods natin. Okay? Kaya sometimes may mga nag-a-approach sa atin na bakit pati ito may comment? Bakit pati ganito may comment? Dumaan na nga sa ganito, ganyan, ganyan. Why? It's because, okay, ethics in research, they also look at scientific soundness of the research protocol or of the paper. Pero, no, i-clear po lang po, wala naman pong nagpapabago na parang i-overhaul na natin yung o ipinapa-overhaul na natin yung buong papel or yung buong research protocol. Yun lang mga sa tingin natin ay pwede naman or pwede pa. Okay? Yun pong katanggap-tanggap naman na i-revise. Okay? And then of course, the ethical soundness of the research. The reviewers, okay, or the UREB, at the level of the college, it's the College Research Ethics Board, okay? They are looking at ethical considerations, no? To justify the ethical soundness of the research protocol or of the study, okay, before the data gathering. And then requirements of a researcher, okay. On the requirement, the first requirements, the first one is scientific competence. We are all competent here. Ang dami nating training, ang dami nating workshops, ang dami nating webinars in our own field of specialization. Okay? On the side of ethics in research, it is also good po, no, to attend webinars or to attend trainings, okay, and workshops on basic research ethics. Okay? Or kasi iba't ibang level siya . So of course, magsisimula tayo dun sa basic research ethics training, pataas tayo. Okay? And then, we will be aware, okay, on the national ethics guidelines kasi and the international ethics guidelines kasi these are the guidelines na where we anchor our guidelines in PUP. Okay po? So, meron tayong mga basics ng ating guidelines. And then, of course, the resources. So, ano ba yung resources na sinasabi natin? First, as researchers, okay, is our personal time and energy. Okay? Napaka-importante nun. Okay? And then, if we will hire assistants, we will hire, of course, qualified assistants. Those people na pagkakatiwalaan natin, okay? And those people na alam natin na tutulong sa atin if this is a collaborative study. So we can share. Everyone will benefit. Okay? And then, of course, the physical facilities na gagamitin natin, if there will be trial subjects or participants, what else in the resources? If we have trial subjects or participants, there must always be agreements. If we will hire qualified assistants, there must always be agreements. Okay? Kahit kaibigan natin sila, hindi tayo nagdududa. Aalisin po natin yon sa research ethics, no? Palaging yung pagre-review natin is not based on pagdududa. Okay? Hindi siya doon nakabase. Nakabase siya kung doon sa guidelines na sinusunod natin at kung napafollow ba yung ethical considerations. Okay. For the interest in topic, of course, we will choose research studies which are timely, relevant, at talagang nakikita natin na kapaki-pakinabang siya. Okay? So, it's equally important. And then, of course, character. Okay? I have another slide for that. Sorry po. Parang, okay. No? Balikan ko na lang yung ethical considerations. So, traits of character. Okay? This is based on good habits or virtues. The first one is trustworthiness. Okay? Are we faithful, okay, to trust and promise to every subject or to every participant in our study, to the whole community, to the institution, if we have sponsors or funding agency, that their best interest will be kept in mind always. Always. Okay. Honesty, truth in word, deed, of course, of the participant, the sponsor, the public. Respect. Okay. We discussed earlier the respect for others. So we pay attention to other people, not only to ourselves, but most especially to our subjects or the participants. And always, no, kasi naka-include sa kanya, no, respect for others is to consider the informed consent. It's one way of respecting our subjects or our participants. Let's give them the informed consent. Okay? Yung our study. Our informed consent shows the objective of our study, our clear intention. Why are we recruiting this participant? Okay? What is their benefit? No? Ano yung benefits na makukuha ng ating participants or subject? Okay? That's one way of respecting them. And then humility. Okay. If we did not get our desired outcome, if we saw weaknesses, more weaknesses in the research study that we are conducting, are we willing to accept the truth? Are we willing to know or to accept that other studies may be better than what we did? That we should follow this study of our colleague na related sa study natin? Okay? Humility. And are we willing to comply with the approved protocol? Okay? Of the reviewers. No? The next is courage. Does what is right without undue fear. Okay, so We always exercise social responsibility. Okay. We take courage in everything we do, but most especially in conducting research and in accepting the results of our study. Okay. And then last but not the least, it may be too idealistic, but it is in our list. Okay, being morally upright. So um, it is important for the researchers um, practice um, practice and at the same time to conduct researches or conduct research studies at in acceptable manner. Okay? In acceptable manner. So, may mga reviewers po, not in our institution, but there are reviewers who um, requires for curriculum vitae of the researchers, and some, okay, in some cases, they are looking if they have records of fraud, no, and other immoral activities in research. Okay? So, may mga ganon. Pero in our university, kasi in PUP, ang ano natin lagi, ang stand natin palagi is we give credit to our faculty, to our students. Alam natin na they will follow. Alam natin that they are doing their best. We know that they are good. We know that they are that they have clear intentions in conducting this research. Ganun lagi. That's why hindi tayo nagbe-base ng review sa duda. Kasi yon ang ating background, okay, sa lahat ng applicants natin in securing ethics clearance. Okay? All right. Now, all this, na the traits of character, para saan lahat sila? Okay? To avoid misconduct. Okay? The picture on the right says it all. No? Alert, misconduct. So, to avoid misconduct, we are, as researchers, as educators, we are practicing all of this. So, some of the scientific misconducts are listed here. We have before research, during research, and after research. Before research, inaccurate, deceptive, and manufactured background information. Manufactured background information. Okay? So, maganda na tingnan natin. Accurate ba yung nilagay natin in our study as background information, in our literature review? Are these all documented references? Okay? Kaya nga di ba po, sa protocol natin, it should be in APA format. Kailangan nakikita agad kung sino yung author ng references natin, and also the title, no, of our references. Then, non-submission for ethical review or approval. Non-disclosure of conflict of interest. Okay? So, in here, we will see, we'll see na submission for ethical review, okay, or approval is important. Kasi it's one of the scientific misconduct, or it is non-submission is considered as one of the scientific misconduct. And then we have during research. So violations of protocol and violations of ethical principles, non-disclosure of new information or additional method use. Kasi po, of course, no, especially in qualitative researches, minsan, meron tayong maiisip na pwedeng interviewin natin siya kasi nabanggit siya ng subject natin. So, kung kailangan natin yung data from this particular person, pwede nating interviewin. And there is a legitimate way of doing that. So, in the writing of our paper, of our final paper, kailangan naka-indicate siya. Hindi pwedeng hindi. Okay? It falls on new information or additional method that we use. Next is poor data reporting and storage, manipulation, suppression, and misappropriation of data. Okay. And then after research, data fabrication, hoaxing, forging. Some researchers or academicians or scientists, no, call this as cooking, no, trimming. Cooked manuscript naman yan eh. Trimmed manuscript naman yan eh. Why? Okay? Upon investigation, there is data fabrication. And then is statistical misuse. That's why it is stated din, no? Kailangan nakastate siya dun sa ating research protocol. Unfounded claims, okay? It's solemnly slicing, no? Or at least published units. Okay. We call, others call this myth extender. This is a tactic, okay? What does it mean? Multiple publications of the same study. Unfortunately, it falls on scientific misconduct. Okay? Next is ghostwriting, wrong authorship, plagiarism, okay? Still credit. That's why we have this additional requirement po, okay, sa REC natin at PUP, a plagiarism test result. Okay, sa UREB, sa University Research Ethics Board, para maiwasan natin na nakatapos na yung study, magkakaroon tayo ng mga issues. Okay? And before naman, or kaya naman natin din na mag run, no? And we are actually confident naman, no? Na lahat ng mga nire-review natin, lahat ng nire-review ng UREB ay walang ganitong issue. Okay po? And then false information to journals. Madali na mag-email ngayon ng ating mga EICs kung ano or dun sa mga persons, to persons that we indicated in our research study if we will publish our manuscript. No? So napakadali na lang po nun ngayon. So let's avoid false information to journals. This is an interesting article and I want to share it with you. Okay, it falls actually on the scientific misconduct. This is an article of C.K. Gonzalez and Aaron D. Robinson, The 9 Pitfalls of Research Misconduct, and I quote, academic leaders must audit departments for flaws and strengths, then tailor practices to build good behavior. Okay, and the 9 common pitfalls of research misconduct, okay, are presented using the mnemonic tragedies. I will not discuss this one with you. Instead, okay, let's have some reflections, okay, on our, as I read and as I share with you the 9 common pitfalls of research misconduct. T stands for temptation. Getting my name on this article would look really good on my CV. Rationalization. It's only a few data points, and those runs were flawed anyway. Ambition. The better the story we can tell, the better a journal we can go for. Group and authority pressure. The PI here stands for Principal Investigator. The Principal Investigator's instructions don't exactly match the protocol approved by the Ethics Review Board, but she is the senior researcher anyway. Entitlement. I've worked so hard on this and I know this works, and I need to get this publication. Deception. I'm sure it would have turned out this way if I had done it. Incrementalism. It's only a single data point I'm excluding, and just this once. embarrassment. I don't want to look foolish for not knowing how to do this. And sorry for the word, the last is stupid systems. It counts more if we divide this manuscript into 3 submissions instead of just 1. 9 pitfalls of research misconduct. Okay, now let's go back to the ethical considerations. Okay, the first in our list is the informed consent, because this is just like what I said a while ago. It's one way of honoring and respecting our subjects or participants. But what researchers, okay, miss to see in the informed consent is we also benefit from this. Okay? Kasi if we will look closely to it, the informed consent give us this assurance that our subject, that this participant is giving us the authority to include his or her responses in our study. So kung walang pagbaback out na mangyayari during the conduct of the study, meron tayong signature ni participant na we are allowed. Okay? Of course, um, we will practice confidentiality. Okay? But it's also a way of securing ourselves as researchers. Okay? That's why it's important not only for the subjects or the participants, but also to us. And then the risks and side effects. There are studies which really, okay, contain risk and side effects. Actually, sa ngayon po, no, ay hindi naman maano sa business, but I just want to share this with you na yung pandemic kasi natin, may marami tayong studies ngayon na yung effect niya. Okay? Effect niya sa atin. So, ano yung risk? Ano yung mga side effects nun? Baka mamaya, kung nag-i-interview na pala tayo, dahil nag-share si participant or si subject natin ng kanyang mga experiences because of the pandemic, baka mamaya ang after effect pala ng interview natin ay ma-depress siya. Magiging responsible ba tayo as researchers kapag may nangyaring ganun? Okay? So, that's why the evaluators, or in our case, in UREB, tinitingnan din natin yung mga ganitong effect. Okay? O dun sa business. Okay? Baka mamaya mag-interview tayo na nalugi pala siya. Baka mamaya may effect yun sa kanya. Ready ba tayo? May naka-standby ba tayo dyan na counselor? If there is a need for counseling, that's why the briefing is important. And it is included in our game a while ago. Okay? Benefits to the subject. Let's always include how our participants will benefit from our study. Kasi sila yung target natin eh. So, of course, they will benefit from our study. And it is very important to state that in our protocol. Okay? Costs to subject. Kung may harm, okay, na mangyari, ano yung may offer natin sa kanila? But, eto naman ay mga pili lang po yung mga studies, na we require to the researchers or the applicants to fill this part of the protocol. Then compensation to subject if there is a need. Okay? If there's no need, you can just declare it in your research protocol. And then provisions for vulnerable subjects, the minors, okay, the PWDs, elderly people, lahat ng vulnerable subjects, if they will be our participants, what can we give for them? What can be provided for them? Okay, during the study or during the conduct of our study, and of course, subject privacy and data confidentiality. So marami siyang mga nandito po yung how are we going to identify our subjects, bakit sila yung napili natin na subject or participants, and then how are we going to gather data from them? Kung yan ay through Google form, lahat ikikwento natin paano, how are you going to secure the informed consent, how will you keep the data that you will collect from your subjects or participants, how long are you going to store that data, and who will have the access on the data. Okay, so lahat siya naka-indicate. All the ethical considerations that we are looking right now, okay, in this screen are part, okay, or are being reviewed as part of the ethical soundness of our research proposal or of our research study. Okay, so ito po yung nire-review natin. The rest, the scientific soundness, these are the background of your study, the objectives of your study, the method section. Okay po? So, with that, okay, being familiar with the ethical considerations, okay, we bring efforts at promoting the ethics in research. So, one of the oldest basis, okay, of promoting ethics in research or in the creation of national ethics committees or the NECs or the ethics or the RECs or the research ethics committees are the following. So, one of the old is the Nuremberg Code. Okay, this was published in 1947. There are 10 points, okay, on this code, and I would just mention some. Okay, this is actually created, no, as trials of war criminals before the Nuremberg military tribunals under control council law. Okay, Washington, D.C., U.S. Government. Okay, so they presented there the voluntary consent of subjects or participants, then that the experimentation should yield or should produce fruitful results, not only for the experimenters or the researchers, but also to those who will benefit from the study, specifically the subjects. Okay, and then we have the UN Declaration of Human Rights in 1966. Okay, the Belmont report in 1979. This is on the protection of rights and interest of human subjects in the conduct of research studies, particularly in program evaluation, in social experimentation, social indicators, in survey researches. No, kasama po siya doon. And also the secondary analysis of research data. Okay. What else? Statistical analysis as well. And then we have the World Health Organization 2011 Standards and Operational Guidance for Ethics Review of Health-Related Research with Human Participants. This is developed, or this was developed for individuals who are in organizations as well, who are involved in health-related researches. And then we have the FREB, or the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board National Ethical Guidelines, created in 2017. This is to update the existing ethical guidelines to ensure adherence to local, national, and international principles in ethics na pina-follow natin in the country. So, meron po tayong mga research ethics committees na accredited ng DOST na mga hospitals, and meron ding mga institution, academies. Okay. So, one of the objective of the FREB National Ethical Guidelines is to see that these principles, na the local, national, international principles and values in respect, okay, or in respect rather, okay, to Filipino culture and values, nagja-jive ba? Okay, kasi we are adapting it in our country. And of course, the PUP structure, functions, and guidelines on research ethics. As of today po, we are revising the existing implementing guidelines of the University Research Ethics Board. We already have the consent of the DOST PREB, okay, to make SOPs, okay, for our research ethics center. So, ito yung may o-offer natin, okay, from the Research Ethics Center of the Research Management Office ng PUP to help you, okay, in securing or in making our manuscript, making our research study or research project ethically sound. Okay, not only scientifically sound, kasi expert na po kayong lahat doon. So, we are here to help to make it pass, no, the ethical considerations of our research. So, what do we promote? In research, okay, ethics, we promote integrity, commitment, okay? What else? Service, responsibility, excellence, accountability, okay? Adaptability, respect, honesty, and so on and so forth. So, research ethics for who? Participant? Researcher? It's actually for everyone. Para lahat visible. Lahat, everybody will benefit. The references of my presentations are the following. Thank you very much po.
Wow, before anything else, let us all give Professor Hazel Samala a virtual round of applause. Grabe.